Police and military former special forces need a restraint of trade? A restraint of trade is a legally binding contract clause that restricts an employee or business partner from competing with their former employer for a specific time and within a certain area, often used to protect confidential information, trade secrets, specialized skills, investments, and client relationships. The question was first raised in a quiet newsroom, buried beneath layers of whispers, half-truths, and unfinished investigations. It did not begin as an accusation, but as a pattern one that refused to be ignored. After years of service, men once trained in discipline, secrecy, and lethal precision stepped back into civilian life. They carried with them skills few could rival: surveillance, intelligence gathering, tactical planning. These were not ordinary retirees. They were former special forces products of elite police and military units. And yet, outside the structure that once governed them, those same skills seemed to drift into darker territories. At first, the connections were subtle. Private security firms began appearing, staffed by former operatives. Their clientele raised eyebrows figures with reputations that lingered somewhere between business and the underworld. Names like Katmat Lala and Sumi surfaced repeatedly, not in official reports, but in conversations held behind closed doors. No charges tied them conclusively to wrongdoing in these contexts, yet their proximity to controversy was difficult to dismiss. Then came the more troubling threads. A high-profile killing shook the city, the death of Mark Liffman. Officially, it was another violent chapter in a long history of organized crime. But within investigative circles, questions circulated about who had the expertise to execute such an operation with precision. Some pointed, cautiously, toward individuals with specialized training people who understood both tactics and how to disappear afterward. The pattern deepened with the abduction of Ethiopian businessman Abadiga. The operation bore hallmarks of coordination and planning beyond opportunistic crime. Whoever was involved knew how to track, isolate, and extract a target without leaving an obvious trail. Again, speculation emerged not as fact, but as a troubling possibility that such capabilities might originate from those once trained by the state itself. When Hawks investigator Franz Mathipa was killed, the concern shifted from speculation to alarm. This was no longer about criminal figures alone. It was about individuals tasked with upholding the law becoming targets. The line between enforcer and adversary seemed to blur. Investigators quietly questioned whether they were facing adversaries who understood their methods all too well. And then there was Witness D. The name itself suggested fear a person hidden behind anonymity, someone whose testimony threatened to expose networks operating in the shadows. When that witness was killed, it sent a chilling message. Not only were crimes being committed, but those who might speak about them were being silenced. The precision of the act again raised the same uneasy question. Who had the training to carry this out so effectively? Individually, each case could be explained away. Coincidence, organized crime evolving, independent actors. But collectively, they formed a mosaic that was harder to ignore. Former Special Forces operatives, now outside formal command structures, were appearing at the edges of multiple investigations. Not always as suspects, not always with direct evidence linking them, but consistently enough to raise concern. Their associations with questionable individuals, their presence in high-risk environments, and their access to advanced skills created a perception that could not easily be dismissed. It was in this context that the idea of a restraint of trade emerged. Could or should there be limitations on how such highly trained individuals operate after leaving service? Not to punish them, but to protect the integrity of the very systems that trained them. After all, the state had invested in their abilities for a specific purpose: to safeguard society, not to inadvertently empower its most dangerous elements. Critics argued that imposing restrictions would infringe on personal freedom. A soldier or officer, once retired, should have the right to pursue any legal livelihood. To assume wrongdoing based solely on background was both unfair and potentially unlawful. Supporters of the idea, however, saw it differently. They pointed not to guilt, but to risk. When individuals possess specialized knowledge of tactics, intelligence systems, and operational vulnerabilities, the stakes are inherently higher. In the wrong hands, or even in morally ambiguous environments, that knowledge could be misused in ways ordinary citizens could not replicate. The debate was not about proving that all former Special Forces members were involved in criminal activity. It was about acknowledging that the overlap between elite training and certain types of crime created a vulnerability within society. Back in the newsroom, the question remained unresolved. Was it coincidence that these threads seemed to intersect around individuals with such backgrounds? Or was it a warning sign, one that required proactive measures before more lines were crossed? No definitive answers came, only more questions. And perhaps that was the most unsettling part of all.